The hidden teachings of Jesus. Jesus' decision to communicate through parables was deeply intentional. He knew that if he spoke openly about his profound teachings, the controlling powers of his time would suppress them entirely. So he embedded his wisdom in stories, like Trojan horses filled with truth. The authorities of his day accepted these teachings superficially, unaware that their deeper meanings would eventually reveal their distortions and deceits. This exploration unpacks these Trojan horses, peeling back the layers to uncover the truths within. As Jesus himself declared in John 8:32, "You shall know the truth, and the truth shall set you free." The world we think we are born into is, in truth, born within us. Every moment we interpret reality through our minds and senses, we create our experience of the world. And within this outer world, Jesus hinted at another, parallel world, one accessible when we engage specific centers of inner energy. This kingdom of heaven can be experienced not through faith alone, but through a shift in awareness. Jesus' teachings align with principles we now recognize as part of Kundalini Yoga. Unlike religious belief, yoga is a systematic and scientific method for experiencing the divine within oneself. Jesus, therefore, was less a religious figure than a yogi, leading others to direct experience rather than mere belief. Though many called him rabbi, Jesus was unconventional and challenged the established religious systems. He refused to validate traditional worship practices as a means to the divine. His revolutionary teaching was yoga, a precise methodology to awaken consciousness, and his insistence on this path ultimately cost him his life, for it disrupted the power structure of his day. Our bodies come equipped with a mind that serves as a sort of bottleneck, narrowing the expansive potential of our consciousness. The mind limits us, compelling us to focus on sensory perceptions and earthly desires. As long as we rely on the mind for understanding, we remain detached from the core of who we truly are. According to Jesus, sin is simply this misunderstanding of self as body, caught up in worldly desires. Our minds and senses have shaped our identity, but if we were truly one with our minds, we would be able to silence them at will. Consider how, when watching a movie, we're transported into emotions even as we know it's not real. This phenomenon demonstrates how powerful projections can alter our experience. In the same way, Jesus taught that by shifting the focus of our consciousness beyond the mind, through what he called the third eye, we begin to see a truer reality. As he explained, when the light of the body is the eye, if your eye is single, your whole body will be full of light. Matthew 6:22. By viewing the world through a singular, transcendent vision rather than dualistic sight, we reveal the light of truth within. Jesus' teachings suggest that he perceived reality from a place beyond ordinary sight. When he looked upon the ocean, he saw it not as physical water, but as vibrating energy, an extension of his own essence. This realization allowed him to interact with it on a different level. But our physical senses create a reality of separation. If we attempted to walk on water without this higher awareness, we would simply sink. This narrative is not about miracles, but about our capacity to shift consciousness. To truly grasp Jesus' teachings on a practical level is to recognize that we each hold the potential to awaken what he called Christ consciousness. The second coming of Christ, often misunderstood as an external event, is actually an internal awakening within each of us. As Jesus said, "Take my yoke upon you," an invitation to unity, to merge our limited self with our higher self. This journey aligns with yoga's goal of joining our individual consciousness with universal consciousness. Following Jesus' teachings involves an experiential transformation, the kind achieved through yogic practice. One of the most curious omissions in conventional accounts of Jesus' life is the absence of details about his years between ages 13 and 30. These were his transformative years, his passage from youth to the enlightened figure who became known as Jesus the Christ. During this time, he traveled, studied, and practiced in India, Nepal, and Tibet, learning from and teaching with great spiritual masters. The wise men from the East, who visited him as a child, were likely rishis from India, early guides on his spiritual path. But religious authorities have often downplayed or concealed this part of Jesus' life, preferring instead to emphasize other narratives. Despite his willingness to face death, Jesus refused to abandon his message. He expressed that his teachings were far more important than his physical existence. Ironically, many religious institutions that bear his name have drifted from these teachings, emphasizing rituals over the spiritual journey he set forth. The 7 golden candlesticks and churches mentioned in Revelations are symbolic of the body's 7 chakras or energy centers, essential for spiritual awakening. Jesus spoke of being born again, which he described not as a second physical birth, but as a spiritual awakening through the Kundalini energy. This awakening happens as energy rises through the chakras, culminating in a transformative experience Jesus called the Kingdom of God within. To understand the teachings of Jesus, we must delve into the concept of rebirth through Kundalini energy, a birth of spirit rather than flesh. According to Jesus, this spiritual awakening is the pathway to the kingdom of God. The physical systems we depend on, respiratory, circulatory, digestive, become secondary when this spiritual rebirth occurs. Union with the divine and nirvikalpa samadhi. In nirvikalpa samadhi, a state of deep meditation where the ego dissolves, the yogi attains complete unity with the divine. Jesus expressed this oneness when he said, "I and the Father are one." He likely entered this state during his 40 days in the desert, a period of profound meditation that allowed him to experience deep divine communion, transcending ordinary bodily functions. The idea of reincarnation hinted at in Jesus' discussions with his disciples suggests an eternal journey of consciousness. Jesus' teachings emphasized that the spiritual path he walked is open to all. As he said, "Whoever believes in me will do the works I have been doing, and they will do even greater works than these." However, religious institutions often miss the point, elevating Jesus' status while overlooking the path he offered to us. Jesus' message was fundamentally about conscious evolution. The kingdom of heaven, he taught, is not a future destination, but a state of being accessible here and now. This duality, often misunderstood as heaven and hell, is actually a reflection of our inner state. By activating our chakras and shifting from body consciousness to divine consciousness, we experience a state of heaven, a union with the divine. The decision is ours, to live within the illusions of the physical senses or to transcend them. Some believe in evolutionary theory, others in divine creation, yet the essence of existence points to an intelligent, conscious origin. Spiritual teachers like Yogananda have suggested that the separation we experience from divinity is a byproduct of thought itself. Thoughts create the illusion of duality, separating us from our true nature, like a drop of water within a bottle floating in the ocean. Though in and of the divine, our limited self-identity feels separate. Jesus' teachings are an invitation to transcend this illusion and rediscover our divine unity. The essence of his message encourages us to see beyond our thoughts and senses, to shift from a mind-centered reality to an experience of love, peace, and oneness. As Jesus accepted his divine gift, it symbolized a deep union, the Father within the Son and the Son within the Father. This union is the true essence of the kingdom of heaven. For those seeking wholeness, reconnecting with this divine light will spark an internal flame. The purpose of practices like mudras or symbolic hand gestures is to reorient energy within the body, directing it towards spiritual awakening. Among them, the Kachari mudra holds a special place, often called the king of all mudras, due to the transformative benefits it offers. 1. The breathless state. Kachari mudra enables you to still your breath, calming the mind deeply. The quieting of breath allows consciousness to shift inward beyond the distractions of external awareness. 2. Closing the circuit. This mudra bridges the physical gap between the spine and the brain, creating a complete circuit that elevates inner energy. 3. Balance of energy channels. The mudra also balances the energy pathways, or nadis, harmonizing bodily energies and guiding them along the central channel, known as the Sushumna or Brahma Nadi. 4. Sharpening the mind. Through this practice, you can stimulate a nerve center that enables a heightened focus, pulling attention inward. 5. Activating Kundalini. By unlocking the lower energy centers, the mudra initiates Kundalini energy, awakening dormant potential within. 6. Silencing external perception. Kachari mudra can compress a central nerve area, effectively shutting off sensory input and stilling the mind. 7. Tasting the divine nectar. The ultimate goal of Kachari mudra is to access the brain's fountain of youth or divine nectar, also known as Amrita, which leads to a state of blissful awareness. Each of these benefits brings profound shifts in awareness. Let's take a closer look at what each step truly means. The ability to stop breathing may seem impossible, yet in the womb, a baby does not breathe in the same way we do as adults. In fact, we exhale more oxygen than we need, suggesting that our primary purpose for breathing is to draw in prana, the life energy within the air. The body often prioritizes expelling carbon over drawing in oxygen, underscoring that it's more about the energy exchange than the mere intake of air. When the breath is still, carbon dioxide peacefully exits the body on its own. In the quiet that follows, Kachari mudra blocks outgoing air, preventing the breath from stimulating the nervous system and allowing the consciousness to shift even deeper. Our spinal column does not directly connect with the brain. It is bridged by the brainstem. This lower brain, known as the reptilian brain, handles basic survival instincts. By practicing Kachari mudra, the tongue redirects the body's energy flow away from these primal centers, connecting it with higher brain functions. In this way, the tongue becomes a fuse that reroutes energy towards spiritual awakening. Balanced energy pathways, or nadis, allow for the body's electricity to rise along the Sushumna, the central channel. Through exercises like alternate nostril breathing, the energies flowing through the left and right sides of the body balance, clearing the pathway for a profound awakening. Jesus' teachings emphasize the importance of this inner harmony, directing energy toward the third eye, or Ajna chakra, where true clarity of perception resides. Once aligned, energy centers can trigger states of bliss and bring the mind to a heightened, one-pointed focus. The nerve bundle at the top of the nasal cavity can be stimulated by the tongue during Kachari mudra, creating an almost euphoric sensation. It is a state akin to the brief tingling sensation before a sneeze, yet deeper and more fulfilling. This focus pulls attention away from worldly distractions, opening a doorway to profound meditation. Kundalini energy lies dormant within each person, ready to be awakened. Many may have caught glimpses of its presence, such as the electric sensation of static or the small dancing particles of energy seen in the air. This latent energy can be blocked by what spiritual teachings refer to as seals in the body, the 7 energy centers. When we start to clear these centers, often through practices like mudra and pranayama, breathing exercises, we move the energy upward, unlocking layers of deeper consciousness. Kachari mudra can even lead to what mystics call the fountain of youth. The body naturally produces a sacred liquid that, when absorbed by the tongue, brings about a state of deep, timeless awareness. This liquid, referred to in different spiritual texts as Amrita or DMT by modern science, allows one to bypass bodily needs, reducing hunger and prolonging vitality. This ability to enter a state of blissful awareness, completely at one with the universe, is what Jesus experienced during his 40 days in the desert. The Bible often uses metaphors to guide us to deeper truths. The story of Eve, the serpent, and the apple represents the soul's descent into physical awareness and bodily desire. When we activate higher chakras, such as those associated with the heart, throat, and third eye, we transcend these bodily urges, reaching a state of mind that is aligned with love, intellect, and divinity. Genesis 1:27 reminds us, God created man in his own image. This does not refer to a physical likeness, but rather the spiritual anatomy of chakras, the energy centers within. The choice is ours, either to invest energy in body consciousness or direct it toward divine awareness. The key is where we focus our energy. Why then are such transformative teachings obscured? Many religious institutions and educational systems teach limited versions of human origin and destiny, often favoring materialistic views over spiritual growth. Knowledge of our divine nature and true potential is often sidelined or dismissed. In truth, the path to divine consciousness is accessible to anyone willing to invest time and effort. Jesus taught that only through inner rebirth can we enter the kingdom of heaven, and in the Gospel of Thomas, he urges us to seek persistently, promising that once found, this knowledge will astonish us and grant us dominion over our lives. 2 worlds exist for each of us, heaven and hell, or as Jesus said, serving God or mammon. You are by nature a child of the divine, a piece of God. This life is a journey to rediscover this truth within. Only by awakening all 7 energy centers can you reunite with your divine origin. As Jesus said, "Greater works than these shall he do," reminding us that the path he walked is ours to walk as well.